The first thing I heard wasn't birdsong or the low hum of sprinklers. It was the sound of fabric tearing, violent, deliberate, like someone ripping a shirt right down the middle. I rushed outside barefoot, the concrete scorching under my feet, and there she was, Karen. One hand gripping my flagpole, the other yanking my American flag off like it was a piece of trash. The pole scraped and groaned against the metal bracket. The fabric fluttered helplessly before she wrenched it down and slammed it into the dirt. HOA rules, she snapped, her voice shrill enough to make the neighbors peek through their blinds. You're in violation. That thing is coming down. The sun beat down on the cul-de-sac, heat shimmering off the asphalt, but my blood ran cold. This wasn't just any flag. It was the one my late father folded into my hands the day I left for college. I froze, fists clenched, torn between rage and disbelief. My flag lay crumpled in the gutter, tire tracks already smudging the stars. And here's the thing Karen didn't know. What she had just done wasn't only cruel. It was a federal crime. I should probably back up and explain how we even got here. My name's Daniel, and I've lived in this neighborhood for 12 years. We're tucked just outside of Houston, Texas, your classic suburban cul-de-sac with identical lawns, picket fences, and an HOA that thinks it's a federal government of its own. When my wife and I bought this house in 2013, the selling point wasn't the granite countertops or the two-car garage. It was the wide front porch, the kind of place where you could hang a flag and watch the world go by. And for me, that flag wasn't decoration. You see, my dad was a Marine. He passed away in 2017, but before he did, he gave me the same flag that had flown on his base during his last deployment. Every 4th of July, every Memorial Day, every morning that I needed to feel close to him, I'd raise that flag. It wasn't political. It was personal. The HOA didn't always see it that way. Now, let me introduce you to Karen, our HOA president. Blonde bob haircut, neon-colored workout clothes, oversized sunglasses that never came off, even indoors. She was the type of woman who treated every neighborhood barbecue like it was her private event and every front yard like it was her personal property. At first, her power moves were subtle. A note tucked under my doormat saying, "Please make sure your flag is properly illuminated at night." Okay, fair enough. I bought a solar spotlight. Then came a $50 fine in March 2021 for excessive flag wear and tear. She claimed the edges looked frayed. I spent $120 getting the flag professionally restitched. But it didn't stop there. Karen started targeting me during HOA meetings. "We have standards," she'd say, flipping through a thick binder of bylaws while staring daggers at me. "We don't want the neighborhood looking messy." Other homeowners rolled their eyes, but no one challenged her. She was the kind of person who remembered every bylaw number by heart. Section 12.4, paragraph C. She quoted them like scripture. By May 2022, the fine stacked up to $350. All for my flag. That's when I did some digging and found out something Karen didn't want anyone to know. Texas has a state statute, Property Code Section 202.012, that explicitly says homeowners associations cannot prohibit or restrict the display of the United States flag. As long as the flag is properly displayed, they can't touch it. I printed that law out and slid it across the HOA table one Tuesday night. Karen's face tightened. She adjusted her sunglasses, even though the meeting was indoors. "Well," she sniffed, "laws don't stop this neighborhood from having standards." I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Because 2 weeks later, June 14th, 2022, Flag Day of all days, I woke up to the sound of tearing fabric. And there was Karen, yanking down the one piece of cloth she hated most. Only this time, it wasn't just HOA rules on her side. She was about to find out what happens when you break a real law. The morning after Karen ripped my flag down, I put it right back up. I brushed off the tire marks, smoothed the fabric as best I could, and raised it again, my knuckles white as I tied the rope. That flag had seen combat zones overseas. It wasn't about to lose to an HOA president in neon spandex. Within an hour, an email hit my inbox. Subject line, notice of violation. The body was just one sentence. Per HOA bylaws, you are required to remove the flag immediately or face a $500 fine. $500 for flying the American flag. I printed the email and taped it to my fridge like a trophy. My wife shook her head. "Danny, this woman is going to make our lives miserable." "She already has," I muttered. "But now it's war." That same evening, I caught Karen standing at the edge of my driveway, arms crossed. "You think you're clever," she sneered. "I think I know the law," I shot back. Her lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We'll see about that." 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. Inside, a $500 fine for unauthorized display, a threat of legal action if the fine wasn't paid within 30 days. And the kicker, authorization for the HOA to enter my property to remove violations. I could almost hear her laugh as I read it. But here's the thing about HOAs most people don't realize. They love to bluff. They write letters with big words like lien and legal recourse, hoping homeowners get scared and pay up. What they don't expect is someone who actually knows the rules. So I did my homework. According to the Texas Property Code and the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005, no homeowners association can restrict or remove a properly displayed U.S. flag. Period. And if they try, that's not a violation of HOA rules, that's a violation of federal law. I highlighted the section, stapled it to their violation notice, and mailed it back certified. But Karen didn't back down. She doubled down. The following weekend, I came home from grocery shopping to find a tow truck idling in front of my house. The chains clinked against the asphalt, the smell of diesel heavy in the air. "What's going on?" I asked the driver. "HOA called. Said your vehicle was parked in violation." I looked at my truck, parked neatly in my own driveway. "You're not touching it," I said, stepping between him and my car. The driver shrugged. "Talk to your HOA lady." And right on cue, Karen strutted out from behind the truck, sunglasses gleaming. "This is what happens when you don't follow the rules," she announced, loud enough for neighbors to hear. I whipped out my phone and hit record. "Karen, my truck is in my driveway. If you touch it, that's trespassing." Her mouth tightened. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not on camera. "Fine," she hissed. "But don't say I didn't warn you." The tow truck rumbled away, leaving her fuming in the street. The neighborhood started paying attention after that. Mr. Lee from across the street gave me a quiet thumbs up the next morning. The Johnsons whispered at the mailbox, "Don't let her bully you." But Karen wasn't just targeting me anymore. She was trying to make an example out of me. Every HOA meeting turned into a trial. She'd shuffle her binder, clear her throat, and announce, "Agenda item number 3, non-compliant resident at lot 14. Neighbors sat in folding chairs, sipping bottled water, while Karen rattled off my infractions. Failure to maintain property. Failure to comply with aesthetic standards. Unauthorized flag display. I stood up one night and read the federal law out loud. Karen banged her gavel so hard it cracked. "This isn't about your precious flag," she spat. "This is about order." I looked around the room, searching faces. Some nodded, some looked away. But for the first time, I saw cracks in her control. Then came the breaking point. On July 3rd, the night before Independence Day, I found my flagpole bracket unscrewed from my porch and tossed in the flowerbed. The flag itself was gone. I stormed down the street, and there she was, in her garage, folding the flag like it was a dirty towel. "That's mine," I barked. She smirked. "Not anymore. Consider it confiscated property." That's when it hit me. This wasn't pettiness anymore. This was theft. This was destruction of property. And more importantly, this was a direct violation of federal law. My hands shook, not from fear, but from clarity. Enough was enough. It was time to fight back. I knew I couldn't just confront Karen head-on anymore. She thrived on shouting matches, on bending HOA bylaws until neighbors gave up. No, if I wanted to end this, I had to use the one weapon she didn't expect. The law. First step, gather evidence. I went out the next morning with my phone, taking pictures of the empty flag bracket, the screws scattered in my flowerbed, and the faint outline of tire tracks from when she dumped the flag in the street. Then I started a folder on my laptop called HOA War, Exhibit A. Inside it, I dropped screenshots of every threatening email she'd sent, photos of the fines taped to my door, a video of her calling the tow truck, sunglasses gleaming as she tried to humiliate me. And finally, the crown jewel, a time-stamped clip of Karen holding my flag in her garage, admitting it was confiscated property. Every piece of evidence was a nail in her coffin. Second step, research. I spent hours at night, scrolling through legal websites, reading forums where other homeowners fought their HOAs. That's when I hit gold, the Freedom to Display the American Flag Act of 2005. It clearly stated that no homeowners association could restrict or remove a U.S. flag displayed on residential property. Not only that, but under Title 18 of the U.S. Code, Section 700, it's a federal crime to knowingly mutilate, deface, physically defile, or steal a U.S. flag owned by another person. Karen hadn't just broken HOA etiquette, she had broken federal law. Third step, backup. I called my buddy Mark, a lawyer who lived one neighborhood over. "Tell me I'm not crazy," I said, emailing him the folder. He called back 5 minutes later. "Danny, this woman just gift-wrapped you a case. Don't pay another dime." Together, we drafted a letter. It wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. It was cold, sharp, and lethal. "Dear Homeowners Association," it began. "This correspondence serves as formal notice that the HOA president, Ms. Karen, last name, has unlawfully removed, defaced, and stolen the United States flag belonging to the resident at Lot 14. Under federal statute, this constitutes a criminal act punishable by fines and/or imprisonment. All evidence has been documented and will be provided to local law enforcement and federal authorities." I read it twice, my pulse racing. This wasn't just a neighborhood squabble anymore. This was real. But the best revenge isn't quiet. It's public. So before sending the letter, I decided to set the stage. On July 4th morning, while the neighborhood gathered for the annual parade, I walked up to Karen in front of everyone. Neighbors lined the sidewalks, kids with popsicles, dogs with red, white, and blue bandanas. Karen stood by the HOA booth, clipboard in hand like a queen surveying her kingdom. I smiled, loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Hey Karen, just wondering, where's my flag? You know, the one you stole from my porch." Her face went pale under the summer sun. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. "Oh, really?" I said, holding up my phone and playing the video of her in the garage, folding my flag like laundry. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone muttered, "Oh, she's done." Karen turned beet red, but before she could speak, I added, "Don't worry, you'll be hearing from my lawyer." That night, I slipped the certified letter into the HOA's official mailbox. Evidence gathered, legal grounds secured, public humiliation in motion. The trap was set, and Karen, she was about to walk straight into it. The 4th of July weekend should have been quiet after that letter. But Karen, she wasn't the type to back down. On July 6th, 2 days after the parade fiasco, I got the knock. Heavy, sharp, and impatient. I opened the door to find 2 uniformed police officers standing on my porch. Karen hovered behind them, arms crossed, her neon pink visor practically glowing. "This the guy," she said, pointing at me. "He's harassing me, spreading lies, and violating HOA regulations. I want him arrested." My stomach tightened. This was her big move. She thought she had the upper hand. But I had been waiting for this moment. "Officers," I said calmly, "before you say anything, would you mind stepping over here?" I led them to the shade of the porch, pulled out a manila folder, and handed it over. Inside, screenshots of her emails, the $500 fine notice, the video of her in the garage with my flag, and the certified letter I'd sent to the HOA. The older officer flipped through the pages, his brow furrowed. "You're saying she removed and kept your flag?" "Yes, sir. And that flag belonged to my late father, a Marine veteran." The silence that followed was thick. The only sound was the buzzing of cicadas in the summer heat. Karen's voice sliced through it. "He's lying. That's my evidence. He's twisting it around." The officer held up a hand. We have video here of you in possession of his flag. Is that correct?" Her face went white. She stammered, I was just enforcing HOA standards." The younger cop tilted his head. Are you aware that under federal law, it's a crime to take, deface, or destroy another person's US flag. You could feel the entire cul-de-sac holding its breath. Neighbors had stepped out of their garages, phones out, recording. Kids sat on their bikes, eyes wide. Karen sputtered, "That can't be true. HOA rules are above." That's when the older cop dropped the hammer. HOA bylaws don't override federal statutes. You've admitted to taking this man's flag, and we've got it on video. You're under arrest. The clink of handcuffs was like music. Karen shrieked as the officers turned her around. "This is harassment. You can't do this. I run this neighborhood." One of the neighbors shouted, "Not anymore, you don't." Laughter rippled through the street. Someone started clapping. I'll never forget the sight. Karen, red-faced, arms pulled behind her, being escorted into the back of a squad car while her neon visor slipped off and landed in the gutter. She screamed through the open window, "You'll all regret this. I'll sue every last one of you." The door slammed, muffling her voice. The patrol car pulled away, taillights glowing as the whole neighborhood stood in stunned silence. Then, one by one, they turned to me. Mr. Lee walked over, patted me on the shoulder, and said, "About time someone stood up to her." The Johnsons raised their sodas in a toast. Even kids waved tiny flags like it was a parade. For the first time in years, I felt like the street was mine again. But the best part came later that week. At the emergency HOA meeting, Karen's chair sat empty. The vice president, a timid woman named Cheryl, cleared her throat and announced, "As of today, Karen has been removed from her position pending legal investigation." You could practically feel the weight lift off the room. No more fines. No more bogus violations. I stood, holding my flag folded neatly under my arm, and said, "I think we all learned something. HOAs can make rules, but they can't take away our rights. Not even Karen." The room erupted in applause. And that's when the officer who arrested her, now sitting in the back row, leaned forward and said the line I'll never forget. "Sir, when we booked her, she actually tried to fine us for parking in front of her house." The whole room roared with laughter. Karen thought she was untouchable. But in the end, the law and the neighborhood proved her wrong. In the weeks that followed, the neighborhood felt different. For the first time in years, people decorated their porches without fear of getting violation notices. Flags went up, flowerbeds bloomed, and the street looked more alive than ever. Even the annual block party felt freer, like the entire community had been holding its breath under Karen's rule, and finally, we could all exhale. Karen, meanwhile, was facing real consequences. The police report was filed, and word spread fast. She'd been booked on charges of theft and violation of federal flag protection laws. Nobody knew the exact penalty she'd face, but rumors swelled of fines in the thousands and the possibility of probation. The HOA quietly voted her out of office. Cheryl stepped in as interim president, promising a new era of fairness. For once, an HOA meeting didn't feel like standing trial. As for me, I repaired the flagpole, rehung my father's flag, and added 2 new solar spotlights so it shone proudly every night. Every time I looked at it, I felt that same quiet pride my dad had taught me, that respect isn't given, it's defended. Neighbors stopped by more often. Some to say thank you, some to share their own stories of Karen's harassment. We weren't just individuals in Nimoy, we were a community, stronger because one bully had been taken down. Still, as much as I enjoyed the peace, I knew better than to get comfortable. Karen wasn't the type to disappear quietly. She still owned her house. She still had her pride. And people like her, they don't forgive, and they sure as hell don't forget. One evening, as the sun dipped low and my flag rippled in the breeze, I spotted her car creeping slowly past my driveway. She didn't stop. She didn't wave. Just drove by, sunglasses glinting in the last light of day. And that's when I realized, this war might be over. But the battle with Karen, it was only just beginning.